read you your bedtime story. This is a book called Palace Wagon Family. It's a true story of the Donner Party. And you can hear my little dog Percy crying. What? What are you crying about? Do you want to see everybody? Do you want to see everybody? Okay. Here we go. Oh, yes. Hello. Here we are. Here we are. Here we are. No more crying. Okay. No more crying. Yeah. Okay. Okay. I know. I know. It's hard. It's hard. You just don't like when the camera's on, huh? You do not like that, do you? Okay, and here comes Winston. That was Percy. Winston's now going to have to also have equal time. Winston. Winston. He's going to be gnawing on a beef stick in front of you. Yeah. You look like you're smoking. No. No, smoking's bad. I know, it's just a beef stick. Okay. Okay. He actually just stole the beef stick from Percy. Okay. So can you go give that back to him? Because I know you don't even want it. You don't even want it. I know. All right, so I'm going to be reading to you from Palace Wagon Family. On a spring day in 1846, the Reed family and the Donner family left their comfortable homes in Springfield, Illinois, and started the long trek to California. It was quite a caravan made up of many wagons, not the least of which was the comfortable, well-stocked Palace wagon, which James Reed had built to house the family's treasures. Carefree and confident of success, the travelers never dreamed that their wagon train was headed for stark disaster. Virginia Reed and her little sister Patty were among the survivors, and it is from Virginia's point of view that Margaret Sutton has dramatically told the history of the ill-fated Donner Party. Mrs. Sutton has studied the survivors' letters and journals, as well as the writings of many other people of the time, to recreate this tale of indomitable courage on the American frontier. That was the introduction. These are the families of the Donner Party. The Palace Wagon family was James F. Reed, his wife Margaret, his children Virginia, Martha, James, and Thomas, Mrs. Reed's mother Sarah Keyes, and the maid Elizabeth Williams and her brother Bayless, teamsters Milt Elliott, Walter Heron, James Smith, Hiram Miller, and two Indians, Luis and Salvador. The Donners, Jacob Donner and his wife Elizabeth, and stepsons William and Solomon Hook, his children George Donner, Mary Donner, and three little boys. George Donner, his daughters by a previous marriage, Elitha and Leanna, his wife Tamsin, their little girls Frances, Georgia, and Eliza, a number of young men, among them John Denton, Charles Stanton, Noah James, Luke Halloran, and two Mexican boys. The Breens, Patrick, his wife Peggy, their children John, Edwards, James, Simon, Patrick, Peter, and Isabella, also a young bachelor, Patrick Dolan. The Murphys, Widow Murphy, her children Landrum, Lemuel, Mary, William, and Simon, her two married daughters and their husbands William Pike and William Foster, and her three grandchildren. The Eddies, William, his wife Eleanor, and two small children. The McCutcheons, William, Big Mac, his wife and baby. The Keysburgs, Louis, his wife, two children, Louis and Ada, a teamster, Dutch Charlie Berger, a Belgian Mr. Hardcoop. The Wolfingers, a German couple with no children. And the Graves family, Franklin, his wife Elizabeth, their children Mary, William, Lavina, Eleanor, Nancy, Jonathan, Franklin, and baby Elizabeth, a married daughter Sarah and her husband Jay Fosdick, and a teamster John Snyder. The adventure begins. Virginia Reed galloped home as fast as Billy's short legs would take her. Illinois winters were cold and the wind was sharp. The old Keys home where the Reed family lived was 3 miles out of Springfield. Behind it was the stable where she left her beautiful cream-colored pony and went directly into the big country kitchen. "Ma! Eliza! Where is everybody?" she called. Eliza, the heavy-set maid of all work, emerged from the pantry, where she had been packing the good china into a flour barrel. She motioned with a cup in her hand. "Your ma, she's upstairs with one of her headaches. But you'll find Patty and the little boys in Grandma's room, scared silly with their backs up close to the wall, so none of the wild Indians in the story she's telling can sneak up behind them with a tomahawk." "Thanks, Eliza. I think I'll join them." Quietly, Virginia tiptoed through the elegant living quarters of the house into the parlor bedroom. Nobody seemed to notice as she seated herself beside her younger sister Martha. Puss and Patty they were to each other. Jim and Tommy, their little brothers, moved closer to their dog Cash for protection. "It's only Puss," Patty told them, and then to Virginia, "I guess they thought you were one of Grandma's Indians coming to scalp us. She's been telling us how it was in Kentucky and Virginia when she was a girl, and now I'm scared to go through Indian country. Do we have to?" "I think it's going to be exciting," declared Virginia. "We'll have Indian stories of our own to tell before the trip is over." "Eliza's beginning to pack, and I heard Mama talking about it too. She and Papa were making a list of things we'd need to take to California, and would you believe it? They spoke of taking all Ma's jewelry for trading with the Indians, her coral necklace and everything." "In my time," Grandma Keys remarked grimly from her mahogany four-poster bed, "a string of scalps was all the ornament any Indian wanted. Of course, if a girl was pretty—" The old lady paused to look directly at Virginia. She was fairer than her younger brothers and sister had been, and she had been the child of Margaret Reed's first marriage. But now the distinguished James F. Reed seemed to love her as much. James F. Reed seemed as much her father as theirs. Certainly no one could love him more than she did. "Papa wouldn't take us into any real danger," she declared loyally. "What I'm looking forward to most is riding the pony he gave me over the prairie every day. He may even let me go hunting with him. Mr. Hastings says in his book that emigrants can count on getting a few buffalo." The book, Emigrant's Guide to Oregon and California, had been highly recommended by the Springfield Reading Circle, but now Grandma sounded a warning, rapping sharply with the cane she always kept beside her bed. "Mark my words, there'll be plenty of danger, in spite of what your fine Mr. Hastings has to say. Once we've passed Independence, Missouri, we leave civilization behind and go through Indian country all the way to the California mountains. If we can't get over them before the snow flies, there may be worse things than the Indians to fear." "I declare, Grandma," Mr. Reed spoke from the doorway, "you talk as if you were going with us." "I am," she announced. "You don't think I'd allow my dear daughter to travel to a strange Mexican settlement without me to look after her, do you? I thought you had more sense, James." Mr. Reed's eyes twinkled as they met Virginia's. Although Mrs. Reed was considered delicate, both of them knew very well that it was Grandma who would need to be looked after. She was 75 years of age and had grown so feeble that she had to be carried from her bed to the rocking chair beside it. But still, she was the dominant spirit of the household and usually had her way. "Very well, Grandma," Mr. Reed agreed. "I think we can make you comfortable. We'll build you a palace wagon, the finest thing that ever crossed the plains. By the way, the Donners have agreed to go with us. You children won't lack for company on the journey." Virginia was delighted to hear this. George and Tamsin Donner had 5 girls, the 2 oldest near her own age. Elitha was 14 and Leanna almost 12. Jacob Donner's family consisted of 7 children, all boys except Mary, a serious-eyed little girl about Patty's age. These 2 quiet children often played dolls together. "May I take my dolls and all the silks and laces Grandma gave me to make their dresses?" Patty now questioned. "We've got to take Cash," declared Jimmy, hugging the dog. We won't go if we have to leave little Cash behind, will we, Tommy?" The children were assured that all the dogs were going. Barney, Tyler, Trailer, Tracker, and Cash, the household pet. Virginia was to take Billy, her cream-colored pony, and Patty might bring along every doll she possessed. The palace wagon would be big enough to hold all the children's treasures. It took the rest of the winter to build the palace wagon and prepare for the journey. Finally, in the spring of 1846, 3 wagons were drawn up in front of the house ready to be loaded with the Reed family's possessions. Milt Elliott, the real Knight of the Whip in Virginia's eyes, was driving the palace wagon. Hastings' book has given me the fever, too, he admitted. Well, Princess Puss, what do you think of your new home? At first she didn't know what to think, and blurted out not at all like a princess, Oxen instead of horses? How will they know where to go without any bridles? They'll know where to go all right, replied Milt, when I crack the bulwark over their heads. Lightly, of course, that's all it takes. You girls aren't scared, are you? Patty and Virginia were keeping well out of the way of the oxen. Of course not, Virginia answered quickly. Why should we be scared? We're not the first family to cross the plains. So one of the reasons why settlers, when they were pulling pulling wagons across the Great Plains, they would not have horses pull their wagons. It's because wagons are really heavy, and so they would use oxen to pull the wagons because the oxen were stronger than horses. They could pull greater weight. You're the first family to cross the plains in any such luxurious wagon as this, Milt informed her. Your pa and I built it to order. The entrance is at the side, and there are high-backed spring seats front and rear, just like a modern stagecoach. Come on in and look around. He lifted the canvas flap that served as a door, and the 2 girls entered what looked like a room in a snug little house. It was already furnished with a brand new cook stove, and Patty soon discovered a hiding place under the spring seats where she could keep her precious dolls and sewing things. Shelves for the beds overhead made a cozy second story, and there was still more space for storing things underneath the shelves. There'll be room for Mama's workbasket and my books and ever so much more. Virginia began happily when a voice interrupted to ask, May we inspect too? The girls turned to see their mother, lovely in her best silk gown. She and several ladies from her reading circle had gathered just outside the wagon. The ladies had brought a large mirror as a going-away present for Mrs. Reed. Hang it right opposite the doorway, they suggested, when they had exclaimed over the many comforts of the wagon. You mustn't forget to keep your good looks, Margaret. I won't, she promised, adjusting the mirror so that her reflection could be seen from the wagon step. Milt was watching her with affection in his eyes. This tall, ungainly young man was a real family friend. By April 15th, everything was ready. Milt chained the 2 youngest oxen, Bully and George, to the palace wagon. Behind them were 3 other yoke. So that means 6. I'll have to drive carefully with so much stuff inside, he remarked to the watching girls. I've heard tell it's bad luck to break a mirror. For the moment, fear seized Virginia, but in the excitement of getting started, she soon forgot her premonition of disaster. The Donner wagons had driven in the night before. Mary Donner and her cousins Elitha, Leanna, Frances, Georgia, and Eliza were there, as well as a number of friends and relatives who had come to see them off. You're luckier than we are, Virginia's own cousins assured her. Leaving school to ride across the plains in a palace car, even the Donners say it will be little more than a pleasure trip. No more school, no more books, some of her schoolmates began to tease, but Virginia laughingly interrupted to tell them that there were several boxes of books inside the wagon. So she's not getting a vacation from school. She has to study while she's traveling. All right, we will stop right there. Thank you for joining me. Hope you enjoyed learning a little bit about the Donner Party's beginning of their adventure.